When we think of Old West lawmen, we picture heroes with shiny badges, unwavering morals, and deadly accuracy with a six-shooter. But the reality was far more complex. Let's look at what it really meant to wear a badge in the American West. First, understand that being a lawman wasn't usually a career. Town marshals and sheriffs often held temporary positions, paid poorly, and worked other jobs to survive. Many were part-time gamblers, saloon owners, or ranchers who took up law enforcement as a side job. Take Wyatt Earp, perhaps the most famous lawman of the Old West. Before becoming a deputy marshal in Tombstone, he worked as a buffalo hunter, stagecoach driver, and gambler. During his time as a lawman, he owned saloons and gambling houses. The lines between law enforcement and other enterprises were often blurred. And here's something Hollywood doesn't show. Many lawmen had criminal backgrounds themselves. They weren't choir boys who decided to pin on a badge. They were tough men who knew the criminal world because they'd been part of it. Wild Bill Hickok exemplifies this complexity. Yes, he served as marshal in several Kansas cow towns, but he was also a professional gambler who created most of his own legend. He claimed to have killed dozens of men. The real number was probably 6 to 8. Hickok's end tells you a lot about the reality of Old West law enforcement. After accidentally killing his own deputy during a shootout, he lost his marshal's job. He ended up making money in Wild West shows, playing himself, or rather, playing the legend he'd created. In 1876, he was shot in the back of the head while playing poker in Deadwood. The mighty lawman died holding aces and eights, the dead man's hand. Pat Garrett, famous for killing Billy the Kid, shows another side of Western law enforcement. Garrett was a former buffalo hunter who became sheriff of Lincoln County, New Mexico. He tracked down Billy the Kid, who he'd once known socially, and shot him in a dark room. Garrett later struggled to maintain his reputation. He worked various jobs, including customs inspector, but his life ended violently. In 1908, he was shot and killed in a dispute over a ranch lease. The mighty lawman who killed Billy the Kid died in the dirt over a real estate argument. Corruption was common. Some lawmen took bribes to ignore certain crimes. Others ran protection rackets, demanding money from businesses for security. Some worked for cattle barons or mining companies, enforcing their employers' interests rather than the law. The position of town marshal was particularly problematic. These men were usually appointed by local politicians and business owners. Their job security depended on keeping their patrons happy, not necessarily on enforcing the law equally. U.S. Marshals were different. They were federal officers appointed by the president with jurisdiction across territorial borders. They could pursue criminals across state lines and into Indian territory. But even they weren't immune to corruption and political pressure. The job was incredibly dangerous. Lawmen faced armed criminals, angry mobs, and sometimes entire communities that resisted law enforcement. They had to make split-second decisions about using deadly force. Knowing a mistake could end their life or career. Many lawmen died violently. Between 1870 and 1890, over 100 lawmen were killed in Texas alone. They were shot enforcing the law, ambushed by outlaws, or killed in personal disputes that blurred the line between official duties and private vendettas. And here's something else Hollywood gets wrong: the clear division between good guys and bad guys. In reality, the line between lawman and outlaw was often thin. Some lawmen became outlaws. Some outlaws became lawmen. Some men switched back and forth depending on which side offered better opportunities. The weapons they carried weren't just for show. A lawman's life often depended on his ability to use force. But unlike movie shootouts, real gunfights were usually close, quick, and messy. Many lawmen died without ever clearing their holsters. The pay was poor. A town marshal might make $100 a month when the town could afford to pay him. Many supplemented their income through gambling, saloon ownership, or other enterprises that sometimes put them in ethical gray areas. Training? There wasn't any. Most lawmen learned on the job. Some had military experience from the Civil War. Others had been cowboys or hunters. Few had any formal instruction in law enforcement. Their authority was often questioned. In frontier towns, the law was whatever the community would accept and enforce. A marshal might have official authority, but he needed the support of local citizens to actually enforce the law. The reality is that law enforcement in the Old West was messy, corrupt, and dangerous. The men who wore badges weren't usually heroes or villains. They were survivors trying to navigate a violent, chaotic time while making a living. Some were brave men trying to bring order to lawless territories. Others were opportunists using their badge for personal gain. Most were somewhere in between, doing what they could in difficult circumstances. The next time you watch a Western with noble lawmen facing down evil outlaws, remember? The real story was far more complex. The badge didn't make the man, and the man wearing it was often just as complicated as the outlaws he chased. That's the truth about Old West lawmen. Not as glamorous as Hollywood's version, but far more interesting and far more human.